The Age of Religious Wars, Spain under Philip II, Part 1. The 16th century was Spain's time of power and glory. Four rulers shaped its destiny. Ferdinand and Isabella were the founders of modern Spain. Their grandson, Charles I, better known by his imperial title Charles V, was the most powerful man in the world in the first half of the century. But it was his son, Philip II, who would lead Spain to its greatest extent of power and to the Spanish Golden Age. However, it was also Philip II that would also ultimately lead Spain to its demise. When Charles V abdicated his throne, he realized that the Habsburg dominions were too much for one man to rule, and decided to split them. To his brother Ferdinand, he left the eastern Habsburg lands, Austria, Bohemia, and Germany, and the Habsburg claims to the Holy Roman Imperial title. Philip, his son, made out better. Spain, Sardinia, Sicily, Naples, Milan, the Low Countries, Luxembourg, Mexico, and Central America. South America, say Brazil, Florida, and the Philippines. Though his immense domain was immense, it was hardly unified. It was much more manageable than his father's had been. It was a Spanish empire centered in Madrid, politically absolute, fervently Catholic, shielded by seemingly unbeatable armies, and fed by an apparently endless supply of American gold and silver in which Philip's rivals bitterly envied. This massive empire was held together at the top by a remarkably centralized bureaucracy. The king sent viceroys to govern his territories, serving as his alter ego. Each of these viceroys, in turn, reported to a supervisory council in Madrid, and all directly accountable to Philip II. There was a Council of Italy, of the Netherlands, of the Indies, etc. Regardless, Philip had an elaborate system of personal checks and balances which severely hamstringed the Spanish government and prevented quick decisions. He was certainly the master of Italy, though he had never been there. Philip controlled half of the peninsula directly and pulled the strings on the majority of the others, namely Florence and Genoa. His biggest prize of his actual possessions was Milan, which was a manufacturing powerhouse, especially in regards to weaponry and armor. Although he did not control Rome directly, the 9 popes that ruled successively during Philip's reign all incurred Philip's wrath at one time or another. But these popes dared not challenge him directly. Only Venice maintained its independence and power, as was slipping. Politically and economically, Italy had lost its central importance in European life. Philip's management of the New World was much more hands-on than his father. To combat the growing power of the conquistadors and viceroys in the Americas, Philip encouraged the audiencias, or courts of justice in the colonies, to challenge their power and to report back to him about their behavior in politics. The crown itself received 1/5 of the bullion mined in America, and earned this by protecting the treasure fleets from attack by French, English, and Dutch pirates. Philip's military power kept his North Atlantic rivals from establishing permanent colonies in the Americas until after 1600. However, Spain's greatest weakness was its lopsided economy. The country was, as it still is, mountainous, barren, and arid. With an explosion in population during the 16th century, Spain was forced to import most of its grain. The nobility, who owned almost all of the land, preferred raising sheep to cultivating crops, and merino wool was Spain's chief export. However, the Spanish exported raw wool to Flanders at a low price and imported finished Flemish cloth at a very high price, giving the Flemish entrepreneurs most of the profit. There were also no industries to speak of in Spain itself. Most manufactured goods had to be imported. The Spanish had always seen business as something that's beneath someone of noble birth, and much of their commerce and banking was handled by outsiders like the Dutch and Genoese, who made fortunes off the Spanish. Within Philip's empire, there were 3 principal trade routes: between Spain and Italy, dominated by the Genoese; next, between Spain and the Low Countries, dominated by the Dutch; last, between Spain and the Americas, which was the only closed Spanish trade. Still, 96% of the cargo shipped to Spain from the Americas during the reign of Philip II was bullion. It was this inequality of economy, plus Philip's constant military campaigns and large standing armies, that would ultimately spell doom. Still, Spain was, by far, the strongest nation in the world for the majority of the second half of the 16th century.